All right, well, g'day there. Richard Musgrave-Evans here again, and welcome back. Now today, I'm in the main part of the studio. I've got a really big canvas here, Belgian linen actually, big stretch Belgian linen, the really coarse stuff. So it's going to use tons of paint. It's going to be so much fun. There's big buckets of paint, slapping it on, just going for it in general. Now, what I'm going to do is go for the big impression. What I want to do is capture the feeling of light. It was a beautiful, moody day. It wasn't full sunlight. There was light and shadow through the day. It had a lovely sky and atmosphere, and I want to capture that. And of course, the size of the cliffs themselves were extremely impressive. So I want to get that and the beautiful reflections. So the concept of this painting will be about capturing that moody light, those big, beautiful cliffs, really giving the feeling, hopefully, of the size of those cliffs, contrasting against the beautiful, soft reflections. All right, let's get into the biggest differences. Now I'll just show you the colours. The colours are Viridian green, magenta, ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, titanium white and cat orange. That'll do it. We'll go with that. Now let's get stuck right into it. All right, well, I'll go for the darkest dark. So what I'll do is I'll mix up some alizarin crimson, a beautiful red, Viridian green with that. Or you can use a bit of one of the blues, phthalo blue. Interesting, nice dark. Now I'm just going to feel my way. There won't be tons of dark. I'll just start putting in some of the marks that I feel like I need to do to establish what I'm on about today. It's very coarse linen. It's going to pump around. It's going to take lots of paint. It's got a clear primer on it, so it may look like the paint's just absorbing in, but it's not. The clear primer fixes it so it just sits on the surface, but because it is so coarse, it will end up using a lot of paint because it's like plastering a wall, troweling it on. But the end result is quite often a very nice effect when you see it in real life. Very hard to show it through photography or film, but when you're standing in front in real life, the texture and the quality of the paint seems really up another level when you're using this super coarse linen. Anyway, so that's what I'm doing here. Let's get into it. All right, so we've got some of those darks there. I'll just outline, just lightly get myself feeling what I want here. I'm just going to go like that. Like the cliffs were very tall and they were right above my head. It looked great when I was in the canoe, just cruising along. It was a wonderful day. Something along those lines. Be a bit of a tree here, I imagine. That one's going to go there. There's a couple of trees, and then there's maybe a little one just here. Okay, now I'll go for some magenta. A bit of ultramarine blue maybe. A little bit of Viridian green, and I'll lighten that value slightly with a bit of white. A bit more Viridian green to grey it off. Let's just have a look what we've got here. That'll be, yeah, a bit more Viridian green, a bit more white. Just got to establish, maybe a bit of burnt sienna. What I'm going to do is establish the values, the darkest values, and as it recedes, it just goes back that little bit further. So we'll go with that, a slightly lighter value. It'll be somewhere there like that, to about there. I'm just very lightly suggesting at the moment, and once I really understand what I'm doing, I'll set it more in concrete, but at the moment I'm just getting a basic feel of the composition. Right, well here we are on the river, beautiful stuff. Let's get going. Lovely day for it. Let's crank it up. Bit of a reflection down so, like this way. A bit of that there, bit of the foliage. Just throw a bit more magenta with white to send it back a little bit of that magenta, phthalo blue and white. Just knock the chromatic saturation, there's the camera today, we'll knock the chromatic saturation out of the colour, send it off a little, a bit more blue, a bit more white, a bit more magenta. Let's see what I've got. That's really grated off nicely. Right, that's just basic fill. Just leave that for there for now and get stuck into some of the other stuff. Go some yellow ochre, viridian green, burnt sienna again. Just want to feel where this is going. Yellow ochre, burnt sienna, viridian green. Goes on there like that. And smaller as it goes off. Look at that stuff. There. A little bit there. Okay, starting to warm up a little. Starting to warm her up. Getting going, there we go. That's better. A bit more of these greens. Alright, let's get going. I've got a nice little spot up here, just up the track, that I reckon will be beautiful for a nice little campsite. Got the billy on board this time. Got a bit of everything I need, bit of lunch. Might just have a little bit of a campfire, something to eat and drink with this beautiful view of the cliffs. It's just up this way. All right, there's half sunlight like I was saying, so these cliffs are half in light, half not. The sky's going to be bright, so the hills are going to be a little silhouetted, the cliffs. Make a bit of a dark value now with burnt sienna. Maybe a twang of ultramarine blue. We can use red, we're just going on a dark value. It'll basically, a bit of white to lighten that. A bit more blues to grey it. Just lightly putting her on. Setting the stage for a silhouette effect against the sky. So, the burnt siennas, blues, reds, blue. That's big, beautiful cliff. Look at that. That's going to be beautiful. Let's just put a bit of yellow ochre in that while we're at it. Yellow ochre and burnt sienna. Burnt sienna. Mix up some of these beautiful ochre effects here. Little caves and whatever on the side here. Shoots down like that with a bit of perspective shooting in. A bit more blue here, just to knock the saturation back. A bit more of the reds. White, red, blue. White to lighten the value. I'm just trying to lighten the value. I want to send, okay. I'm going to send this area back a little bit. So I'll use those browns, but with a little bit of those keyed down things that I was just doing then. A bit more brown. With those keyed down effects, so it's somewhere in between. That'll be the cliff shooting off like so. It's silhouetted. Like that. How about that, eh? Fantastic. A little bit of a wake. That was a bit of fun. Well, that's great. We're wobbling around a little because of the wake from that boat. Isn't that fantastic? Look at the old steamer go past. Look at that. It's great, isn't it? I can see the wake is way behind. There's some big breakers behind it. Quite a long way behind it. I'll keep that away then. I guess I can catch a wave. Whoa, there we go. It's not too bad, doesn't look too much, but just in the middle, there's a few little breakers still going right here, and the boat's right down there. Amazing. That's like 300 metres, 200 metres, 300 metres past already. Anyway, let's see what we can find up here for a campsite. Let's get that water in next day. So what we'll mix, will be the reflection of those big beautiful cliffs. So we'll go for tons of paint, yellow ochre, viridian green, burnt sienna, more viridian green, more burnt sienna, a bit of white to lighten that value just to milk it off ever so slightly. Going to use tons of paint, so I might as well get stuck into it now. Let's put plenty on, shall we? There we go, burnt sienna, it's better. Viridian green. Make up a real brew, tons of yellow ochre, tons of burnt sienna. This linen's going to take it all up, so a bit of white, a bit more green in it maybe. Yeah, a little bit more white and a bit more green. Just feeling it as I go. That's a nice brew, there's tons of paint there. Let me have a look. That's nice. Just put it across. Tons of paint. Put that paint on, get a good coverage. This is the bonus of the knife, it allows you to bung plenty of paint on. It'll come to about there. Just the reflection. Going on lovely, look at that. Beautiful stuff. Alright, I'm going to have to go for more. That's what I was saying, we're using tons of paint. Yellow ochre, viridian green, burnt sienna, white. It seemed like I'd already put tons of paint down on the palette there, but it wasn't enough. Alright, more white. More yellow ochre. Big painting. Going to take a lot of paint. It's going to be beautiful when it's all done. In theory. Let's try that one. What we got? A bit more yellow ochre. A bit more burnt sienna. Lovely stuff. A bit more white. Frosted off a tad. And slightly paler green. I like that green. I'll go with that. Put that on. It's just slightly more of a green and less of a brown khaki colour. But I'll be using all of that. I'll mix that into that. Get plenty of paint on. Something to work with. Lovely stuff. A bit more yellow ochre in that brew. Yellow ochre and white. Oh, it's going on nice. That's it, got plenty of paint to work with. There's plenty of paint on there, so I've got something to work with. That's great. Right. Well, it's not a bad little spot just here. Ain't too bad. There's a nice little area. Bit of firewood already stacked. Someone stacked a bit of wood for me. Alright. This could be the spot. Alright, let's just get up here. I've got the rope in my hand to the boat. There's the boat down there, beauty. Okay. I reckon this will be a good spot. What we've got here, obviously, is the beautiful cliffs. Got the gum trees. Bit of a campfire's already been here. I'll have another fire there so I don't litter and make too much of a mess. Someone's got some firewood stacked over there, even better. So let's just tie this boat up and get into it. Alrighty, great. Alright, we've got that in nice. Let's get that reflection a little thicker over there. It'll be slightly different colour. We'll just have a little bit more of the browns, a little bit more hazed off with some of the blues and browns. Bit of red to grey ever so slightly. Let's just have a look. Now that'll be, the reflection will be from about there, I would say. Nice. Now along those lines. All right, that'll do that for now. I'll get stuck into the biggest difference, which will be that sky. Let's get that sky and that water in. And we'll fill that cliff in later, because that cliff has that bony sort of, because of the colour of the linen, there's already sort of a cliff colour there, but that sky and water are way off. And I like to go for the biggest differences. The biggest differences at the moment will be these two. All right, let's go for some maybe ultramarine blue, a bit of white. Tons of white. We're going to use a lot of white in this setup. The blues, magenta, blue. I'm going to get some more of that ultramarine blue out, I reckon, because that's a nice colour for the top up there, on the top of the sky. Let me just see what I've got. That's nice and dark there. Send some of that on. It's going to be a mixed sky here. It's going to have a lot of cloud cover as well as a bit of blue poking through. On this day, that's what we had, so I'm going to go with that. Right, what I'll do is I'll go for a bit of phthalo, change tack a bit and get down into the lower sky. Phthalo, a little bit of yellow ochre to send it more of a green colour. A bit more white to lighten that value, a lot more white. There we go, a bit more green. Yellow ochre to make it slightly green. A bit more white to lighten the value. It's coming along nice, it's good stuff. Alright, so that'll be down at that level. It'll shoot through there. Put enough of that on. I'll just put a bit of that on here. It's going to be down there. Use a bit more of that ultramarine. Mix that with that one. Blend the two together. So that's a bit of an intermediate. You got the dark blues up here, slightly going into lighter as we go down. It's the intermediate mix. I can sit about there. Come out here. Bit more of that blue. Go here, half mix that into there. You've got the ultramarine there coming down into the phthalos and the yellow ochres as it gets lower. What do we got here? Look at that. Very important. That and a box of matches and water and a bit of tea. Good as gold. Everything's pretty dry. Hasn't been a lot of rain. It starts pretty easy. All right, well that'll be enough of the blues for now. What I'll do is I'll get some of those other sky colours, those overcast day, burnt sienna, sorry, white and burnt sienna, what am I thinking? A bit of magenta to make up a lovely tons of white with that burnt sienna and magenta mixed with those blues, and we're getting a lovely high key cloud formation colour. Those blues are sending it slightly grey, which is what I wanted. Now let me just have a look. These are going to be the middle tones. So they're not white. I can go in there. So it's not white, we're saving the white, the pure white. We'll save that for the accents. That goes on there, nice. Somewhere in there. Put that on there. Oops, where's that gone around the side? Dream location, eh? Absolutely beautiful. Should have brought the swag. It's just a quick trip in the canoe, bit of a quick paddle down the river, but had I thought about it a bit more, I would have brought the sleepover gear as well. Oh well. At least got lunch and cuppers. That's coming along all right. Rail, let's just keep on going. A bit more cloud cover. White. Burnt sienna. We'll use magenta to get that reddy colour. A bit more burnt sienna. Those blues to grey it off. A bit more white to lighten the value. Using those blues to grey it. What a brew. What a beautiful brew. A bit more blue thrown in to grey it off. Let's have a look what we've got here. Not bad. Stick that in there. Just need slight more twang of blue in that mix. And white. Just to send it a little bluer and further off in the distance. Go in there, what's that? That'll be in there. Nice. I can go over there. Lovely overcast day. Let's get those beautiful overcast clouds, and that'll really make the accents jump once I start putting the high key versions on it. It'll really start to go. Reflection. That'll be there. Bit more brown and magenta. Ooh, that magenta is very, very strong. A bit more brown, a bit more white. Rework the brew. Now this will be slightly keyed down in the water, not quite as strong a chromatic saturation because it's a weaker version because it's a reflection. Just needs a little bit more of the blue. We'll use that blue from underneath. That was already the sky colour, and mix that in with it. Get a basic coverage, get plenty of paint on. Once we've got the paint on, we can then really start to play with wet on wet. First, just got to get that coverage. It's going to use a lot of paint, as I was saying earlier, but that's not going to matter. It's going to be part of it. Plenty to go. I'll put that down there. Nice. Grab some of that paint, get that coverage. Nice and neat up to the edges. Okay. A bit more of that through there. There's plenty of bird life here, you can probably hear that. Bit of high level clouds kicked in also, which has kind of knocked the real intensity of the sunlight and shadow, but it's still around, so we'll have to deal with what we've got. The full blue sky seems to have moved on. There's still some sunlight though. Warmer toned sky today. All right. Billy's starting to make noises. I think we're almost there. All right, well that's starting to look pretty good. What I'm going to do now is get the real high key colours, because I've got the lower key values, the darker tones and whatever. I want to set the tonal scale black to white, so I'm going to get some of the real high key colours now. Stick them in the sky as the keynote, and really, once I start establishing that, you really start to feel the light and shadow. So let's get that on. We're going to go for some pure white, obviously. Bit of yellow ochre with that white. Where's that main chunk going to be? It's going to be in here somewhere. Just lightly drag that in. A few bits like so. drag those bits in and across through here. Really a bit more white, a bit more of that yellow ochre. Really start to give the feeling of the sunlight and the shadow of the day. There we go. Nice, it's going on beautifully. Looking convincing. Let me have a look at that, eh? What kind of heater we got there? There's a fair bit of heat, but I think I can hold it. That's all right. Plenty of heat there, look at that. Well, that's made a great difference. Let's just make a slightly lower key version. We'll use a bit of burnt sienna with that white, just to key it down a little tad. Just want to get, that's going to go about there. That reflection along here. Bit out that way. I'll just put a bit more of that in there because that's going to go all the way across to there, like I've done there. And one of those. More of that there. All right, well, while I have this cuppa, let's just come over here and look at these beautiful reflections. Just look at the subtleness just over here. The softness of those reflections is off the charts. There's a bit of a breeze around, but obviously in that area there's not. There's just some tree rustling and whatever else. You can see just over there, there's a bit of like rustling in the water. Fish jumping. The fish jumping out of the water, it's a good sign. Flies, there's a few flies kicking around, but oh well, it's all part of it, it is. On the whole though, beautiful location. Couldn't be happier. I just want to get rid of too much of the canvas that's showing through, so I'm putting more paint on, basically. Pull some of that across. That's it. Lovely. Blend that sky in. Blend that sky. Like I said, I'm just getting rid of the canvas. It won't look like I'm doing a lot at the moment. You think, what's he doing? He's just going over stuff. But what I'm actually doing is just putting a thicker coat, getting more of the finish thickness that I want to work with, and then I'll start refining on that. It's got more coverage, it's good. You can see that because I'm painting in the order of visual importance that I haven't put anything in here yet, and yet it's still starting to become reality because this is raw linen, is almost the colour of the cliffs anyway. So you paint with you go for the obvious differences. The sky is obviously very different to just having raw linen, so you get that sky in. This area here is obviously very different to raw linen, get it in, but this cliff, I haven't even touched it yet, and you can see it's already getting that effect of light and shadow. But now I am going to go for this difference because I'm running around the painting going for the biggest differences, and now the biggest difference actually is that I need to start colouring this one in. So let's go for some yellow ochre, burnt sienna. It's a keyed down day, so it's going to have some ultramarine blue to knock the saturation out of it. A bit of white as well, and some burnt sienna. We can use magentas and reds. A little bit of that sky blue thrown in, that'll knock the chromatic saturation out. Put that in, instead of just having it sit there and not getting used. No, so that's a keyed down version. Let me just see how close I am to that, what I want. It's not bad. Put that in. I might just even go slightly more of a grey version, so get some of those greys and throw that in there. I just want to really kill that saturation for now through here, and I might put a few accents and highlights as I'm getting further into the painting, but for now I just want to keep it keyed down so it's really silhouetting against the sky, because we had that type of day going on. Get the coverage. Nice. Take her up to the top, the edges. Okay, now just get more of this burnt sienna and yellow ochre while I'm at it. Tear it down with some sky, a bit more magenta. I'm trying to send her off into the distance. I just want to paint, go for a bit of a red because I'm running out of magenta. I'll stick some more magenta back on in a minute. A bit more red to grey it off with the sky blues. That's sending it back. Let me just have a look what I've got. It's not too bad. We'll put that in for now. As you can see, it's very close to the colour of the linen. I'll stick the reflection version in too. Like that. A little bit coming through here and there maybe, just peeking through because it does go around the bend. Like so. Alright, I'm just going to quickly knock up a nice feed. Now, it's just going to be some warmed up oats and a banana. Hang on, I'll just get some water on first. Just a little bit of water. I won't overcook it. I'm not going to make it like a big porridge, but I just want to soften it a little. And what I'm going to do different this time, hang on, let's get this set up so the billy doesn't fall over. What I'm going to do this time is put a bit of cacao powder, which is like cocoa powder, a less refined version of the cocoa powder. So it's from the cocoa bean, chocolate, I guess you could say. The origins of chocolate. So we'll just throw a bit of oats in. Nice stuff. Chop a banana in. That is a big banana. Wow. Might be going hungry there, that's for sure. Chop that one in with the spoon. That bird life, I know I've said it before, but it's just great. It's very relaxing. Hearing the birds around and whatever else is a very relaxing sound. I think I'll put the cacao powder in just once this is softened up a bit. I won't throw it into the boiling water. Just trying to, I don't want the direct heat to maybe knock out any of the goodness. This stuff's supposed to be super good for you, but I don't want to overcook it. And the actual cacao powder is similar to cocoa, but cocoa is more processed through heat, through baking, I guess you could say. So this is not as processed, got more of the phytochemicals and nutrients and whatever else. So I don't want to spoil it right at the end by pouring a whole lot of hot water on it and killing those nutrients. I'll throw the water in, let that cool down a bit, then throw a bit of the straight cacao powder in. I'll tell you what, it's good stuff with the banana. That gives it the sweetness you need. And then you got this kind of chocolatey taste. It's like a treat. It's like some banana chocolatey cake. It tastes way too nice to be healthy, but apparently it is healthy, so you little ripper. Anyway, this cup of tea here on the go. Should be just about brewed. Wow, I just love getting out amongst it. Getting out here and grounding yourself, earthing. Don't have to do it all the time, just every now and then come out and have a nice little session. Relaxation, bit of a therapy session. Boom, you're into it. Alright, that's coming along nice. Let's see how it goes. That's working out there. Now let's just get a little bit more yellow ochre. Burnt sienna, a little bit of a cleaner colour. Because there's plenty of clean colour in the cliff as well. So I'll start putting that on. I'm going to have to get more yellow ochre out. I want a really rich colour, and it's going to run through here like that and shoot up that way. Bit of yellow, a bit of white to lighten that value. Bit more white with the yellow ochre. Yeah, we'll run out of yellow ochre. And I'll just throw a bit of white in, just to give the feeling of what I'm after. That'll run through there and up that way. I'll run that way, just giving the contours of the cliffs stuff that's going on. It runs that way, so you're starting to get a feeling of what's going on. What's going on there? Yep, it's starting to work out. Got that perspective as she shoots across. Okay. Time for his powder, I reckon. We'll drop some in. Roundabout, we'll try and... there's not a lot left. I'll just pour it in, see what's happening. There you go. Trying to get about a tablespoon. I guess that's close on it. And there we go. Stir that in nicely. Chocolate banana, you little ripper. That's going to be lovely. And I'll just add a bit of milk to that now as well, and to get the right consistency. It's going to be good stuff, I know it. All right, let's have a look. All right, so I've got the yellow ochre in the cartridge. Fantastic stuff. I like to use the tins, and I like to use the cartridges. Just put some of that out. Plenty of that stuff. It's a really good way to buy paint in bulk, and you've got plenty to work with. All right, what are we dealing with here? Let's go for a bit more of the yellow ochre and white. High key stuff. Stuff on really thick, real thick, chunky style. Nice, nice. I'll go up there. A bit of that around here. A bit more yellow ochre dominant. There's plenty of ochre in these cliffs. They've got a beautiful ochre colour about them. So I'm trying to get that on. I'm getting that, going for that look. It's a bit more burnt sienna up here. It changes as it goes up and gets more burnt sienna and less of the yellow ochre in this area. So I'll put that in. It's got different layers. Whoops, a bit more white, a bit more burnt sienna. The layers change, a bit of magenta and red. As it goes up, the layers change, all different colours, different sediment levels. A little bit of pink in that, that's good. That's nice, we can go with that. Yeah, good coverage. You can see that it's got layers. I've got different layers going in as I go off into the distance. A bit of that. That is the good gear. Chocolate cake. Chocolate and banana cake. Beautiful. Without over sweetening it. Just the banana is the sweetener. That's lovely. Wow, those birds have really moved in, haven't they? It's just going to chuff in through here. Become smaller through there. It's just a keyed down version, so going to be a lot more of the green mixed in and a lot less of the intensity of that. It's just a suggestion, like an echo. Pull it through there like that. That light against dark, silhouetting against the high key sky. And away we go. Away we go. Well, that was a nice little campsite. I might head over to the, just straighten this up. I might head across to the cliffs themselves and we'll have a look, eh? Alright, so it's all coming along beautiful, but at the moment we've just got a few things we need to do still. We've got to put the trees in here and also some of the trees that are running off into the distance there. So let's grab some of these browns and greens and whatever else. Work out where the edge of our... Just put a few different things chuffing along into the distance here. Like so. I might just add a little bit more of the grey blue there as it goes off into the distance. Just put a bit more blue with that. That'll send it back further. Send those trees back further. Reflections. Hopefully you can see what you're doing. I'm not too much in the way. Put a reflection there. Alright, so those trees are going nicely there. Now get some yellow ochre, a bit more yellow ochre, viridian green, a lot more viridian green with that, and burnt sienna. Just have a nice brill. That's there, that's good. A bit more of that in there. A bit more of this tree here. Mix that a bit more. Okay, and I've got another little bit of a one chuffing in around about here. I'll go here, I reckon. Bit of a one there. Knife on edge. Put that in there. Nice big chunk of that. Bit here, bit there. Big chunk like that. A little bit of a one here maybe. Knife on edge. Just a hint of a reflection there. Maybe the hint of a reflection keyed down, of course. Alright, we've got all that in. Now what I might do is, it's all very keyed down and silhouetted. What I'm going to do is light up some of the cliffs, because I want it to basically be a build-up from keyed down and then peaking, and there's a grand finale here, obviously really high key colours. At the same time, I'd like to do a little bit of that with the cliffs, like bring a little bit more light up in the cliffs here to pull your eyes towards it. So let's go for some white with a slightly smaller knife. A little bit of cad, some of the high key cad, first time today. We'll put some of that in. Now, let me have a look. I reckon I'll just place a little bit in here, just to lighten things up a bit. A little bit there. A bit more yellow ochre to go with it. Like so. to there. Chunk her up there. Let me just get rid of that. All right. It's looking pretty cool. It's going back nicely. Go back for the receded colours again. Yeah, I think I'll leave that. I'm trying to get a build up as it sends off. You do have to watch out here. We're pretty close to the edge and we're almost hitting the rocks. There's a few snags underneath us. Beautiful. Well, things are coming along absolutely beautifully. I'm loving that extra accent I've brought in there, which is leading your eye lower key here, building up to the higher chromatic saturation and tonals values. Right there, bright. Now I might just put a little bit of highlight on the water here. Let's just go for some whites. A little bit of that blue. Some blues. Got some blue some under there as well. We'll just use a bit of all that. Okay, now, just here. Faint bit on the water there. Right, let's keep on cruising. Right, well I decided to get just a little bit more of the high key yellow, which I didn't have before, just as a few accents because we're working in a low key environment, just some of those real high key stings. So we'll get some yellow like so, mix it with viridian green, get a super high key ping, just work out where. A nice little blob like so, just to really, secondary one, not as much. Just trying to add a little bit more sting, so you've got high chromatic saturation against low key. Great contrast. All right, well I'm pretty happy with what's going on. I've got nice chunky accent bits leading your eye in for the low key everywhere. Overcast day, a few sunstrikes, sunbursts, light things up, intensify the chromatic saturation against the low key overcast day, so it makes it really pop. It's such a contrast between the two. Full sunny day, everything's bright. But on a half overcast day like this, or 3/4 overcast, you can get some real strong accents against the low keyness. Now, I've keyed it down here and I'm building it up. What I might do now, just the slightest hint of it, trying to sneak through. All looking good. What I might do, we've put that little bit of high key pink in there, magenta pink, key down, colour. Now just get some whites and blues and whatever. Just going to suggest, not too bright, key it down a bit. Just a few trunks. We don't want too many. fact. That one can come off there. Just want a bit of variety there, just suggesting a few trunks, a little bit of detail. Those few lines and dots really do give the illusion of finish in quite a broadly painted picture. Anyway, happy with what's going on. It's a nice dramatic sky, beautiful lead in, things going through. I might just stand back and have a look and see what I think. All right, well, there you go. I reckon we'll leave it at that. I'm pretty happy with what's going on now. I really feel like I've captured that beautiful day when I was there, where it was nice, overcast, occasional burst of sunlight, but on the whole, it was a very low-key setting, and that gives you so much room for accent. As you can see, when I first blocked the painting in, I was going for everything low-key, low-key, low-key. So that gave me a lot of room for when I'm getting to the finishing stages, where I can really slap on some high key and really lead your eyes through the picture with some thick, chunky high key. Now the whole painting is painted thickly, it's used a lot of paint, but in these areas that I really want to draw the eye to, not only is it the lightest light and the strongest chromatic saturation, but also the thickest paint. So when we get the camera off and you come in and have a look, you'll notice that this paint here in these areas that I want to draw the eye to is really thick chunks of paint, just slabbed on beautiful. I think that helps. What that does, that helps lead the eye towards the subject. Now you can see that I've purposely led you through the composition. In these areas here, I haven't used the highest key colours. I've reserved them for the focal areas, and this is the grand finale. And so your eyes tend to move towards light in a painting, and so I want the eyes to flow from this side and run through the picture. And of course the highest key cloud is right there, and that's the grand finale accent. But at the same time, the cliffs here, we don't want to draw too much attention. We want them to be there, but we don't want to draw too much attention to them. So I've got them slightly lower key, less white and less strong colours. It builds up into higher key whites and stronger chromatic saturations like oranges and whatever else, and lead you through, and then starts to fade again. The water's a slightly lower keyed version of the sky, not quite as bright, but still very much mirror reflecting what's going on. I've got yellow ochre and white against the cooler magentas and blues and greys and browns, and those warm yellow ochre highlights really give the feeling of sunlight against the clouds shining through. Beautiful dramatic effect. I've silhouetted the edge of the cliff, as you saw, made it quite dark so that the sky looks bright behind it. Up here, left less detail because I want to draw the eyes down. Don't want to get lost up in the corner, so the picture's flowing through. On the whole, pretty happy with what's going on. Now, if you've watched this up until now, thanks for watching. Why don't you give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, it all helps the algorithms, spread the good word to your mates and whatever else. Why don't we get that camera off now? We'll come buzzing right in and you can have a look and see what you think. All right, thank you. Let's have a look. Spin it around. going down here.